Welcome back, guys. We're going to jump right into this watermelon tumbler. It's crazy easy and I hope you like it. I went ahead and sanded my tumbler and spray painted it with a matte white spray paint. I get these little spray bottles off Amazon. You can get a good bit for a decent price. So we're going to go ahead and get these all ready. I have this lime green alcohol ink. We're putting a few squirts of that in there, a little bit of regular rubbing alcohol, and then I'm doing a highlight yellow. I think this is neon yellow. A few drops of that in there and go ahead and give it a good shake, and this one's done. Next up, we're doing the forest green. We're just going to put a good bit in here, and it's not going to get diluted out a ton, but I am running out of this forest green, so I had to use a little bucket that I made for when I went and taught this in Branson. So we're adding a little bit of alcohol to help stretch it, and then I'm adding on this exact same stuff, but a mixture that I had set aside. Okay, so now for the fun part. We have this Rainforest green alcohol ink that we're just going to put in my little tray on the bottom of a Tipsy Magnolia, and we're going to put lines on the tumbler. We want these lines to be jagged, definitely not straight. I would prefer that not any of these parts of this line are straight, that it's kind of jagged. It can definitely be blotchy. It'll give more character in the end. The only thing that we do not want to have happen is for the ink to run completely sideways across the tumbler. It is okay if it drips and it runs in that same circle. And if it runs a little outside the lines, that's okay too, but we don't want it to go completely diagonal. I'm doing each one of these lines with 2 coats, and I'm varying the pressure that I'm putting on my paintbrush. For the paintbrush, it's an Artist Loft size 6. I will have that also listed below. So go ahead and do your lines on there. Like I said, vary the pressure, make it squiggly. My hand was actually super shaky today for some reason, and that's okay because it kind of gives that look that we need. Next up, we have this lime green color that we made, and we're going to go ahead and spritz this on the tumbler, and we're going to cover the whole tumbler with this. You can see that as you spray it, some of the little lines start to break apart and give a little more characteristic. One of the things that I love about this is that the way that these inks layer, it gives a lot of dimension to it, and the colors kind of pull in together. I'm going to pause really quick to say, I know, I am completely aware that it would have made more sense realistically for the lines to go up the tumbler. When I did that initial design, I didn't like the way it looked. The way that the drip kind of flowed down, I felt like it was too much, everything going in a down direction. So I went the artistic route and I laid it sideways. So don't come after me. So once we have that lime green coated through the tumbler, we're going to spritz on with the Rainforest green mixture that we have. And then as I was doing this, I was kind of looking at it, and that lime green was great, but the color wasn't quite where I needed it to be for that Rainforest green. I grabbed another spray bottle and I'm putting in only Rainforest green. I didn't add any sort of alcohol ink to this, and you can see that it's really spraying a lot different than the other spray did, and I have no idea why. It ended up working out in the end with how that design pulled together. I was a little scared, but like I said, as long as it doesn't run completely diagonal across the tumbler, it's okay. So then I went back and forth with the lime green and the not watered, but the kind of alcohol sort of diluted green, and I just kept layering them. If it does get to be where the ink is piling up, because after a while the alcohol will evaporate, but some of the ink will kind of remain on the tumbler. So that's where I took this little napkin and I just went through and blotched the whole tumbler. What that is doing is it's grabbing some of that alcohol that isn't quite evaporated, and it's grabbing some of the inks and it's blotching it throughout the tumbler. And the way that that all kind of works out is really great. Once you get those colors how you want it, I have a spray bottle here of just regular clear rubbing alcohol, nothing added into this, no colorant, and we're going to go ahead and spray that throughout the tumbler. What that will do is it helps those colors break up, and you can really see in some of those circles there how it gives more of that realistic watermelon look to it. So spritz that throughout your tumbler until you're happy with the look. You can still alternate the green spray paints, the green alcohol inks right here. It won't do anything. You'll just be building more layers and depth to it. So a super pretty design. And then this needs to dry completely. I don't seal it. I just set it aside and then let it completely dry. That way I know that this next step of adding the epoxy to it, that it won't mess anything up. And then we're just going to clean up this mess. The one thing about this is that it does get a little messy. So it cleans up easy enough with rubbing alcohol, but wear a glove for that step. And then just rubbing alcohol is all I used right here to get the rest of that cleaned up. I forgot about the bottom of my tumbler when I was doing that step, so I'm going to go ahead and just blotch some alcohol ink on right here, spray it a little, and then that part's good to go. I absolutely love the original pink that I had for this design, but I was out, so I have to mix a whole new one. It was Pinkie Pie from Create by Firefly, but what I'm using to make this batch is Unicorn. It was a Wonderlust glitter from Mr. Nola, and then Bashful. It's a really pink, sparkly, soft pink. If that pink isn't in your collection, you're going to want to get it. It's a gorgeous one. So go ahead and mix those two together. You're going to want this to have a good bit of sparkle, but also a really intense pink. We need that hot pink to cover up that green that's on the tumbler. For the epoxy, I'm mixing up Flint Sisters Fast Cure Epoxy. This stuff is super amazing. Sets up really great and quick. I'm doing a lot of epoxy for this one, guys. I have about 30 mLs of each part mixed up for this. So like I said, I know it's a lot. Some of it will get wasted. Please don't come after me, but I don't want to run out, especially since we're going to have the glitter mixed in with this. So get that completely combined, and once you're happy with how it's mixed, go ahead and add your glitter to it. We're going to add a lot of glitter to this thing. I probably should have used that whole bag, because when it was going on, it wasn't gappy, but the coverage wasn't as bold as I would like it to be. So I probably should have just used that whole bag of glitter, that little one that I mixed up. We're going to go ahead and do the epoxy drip on the tumbler. For this part, do it however you would like. I like to put this on my turner, and I go ahead first and I kind of make the drip style that I want. I play around with the epoxy and I kind of work it up and down so that it gives me the pattern that I want for that drip to go. And to be honest with you guys, my mom showed up and she was talking to me this whole time and she messed me up. She completely messed me up. Like, I completely forgot what I was doing. I didn't even let my epoxy sit to thicken up, which I should have done. It wouldn't have been this runny, but she threw me off. I'm sorry, she threw me off. Another thing you can use if you want to thicken up your drip, you can use Nice and Thick from CC DIY. I haven't personally used it in a design, but I have been around people when they were using it. It looks super easy. You just put enough in your epoxy to get the thickness that you want, and it slows down how it's flowing. So what I'm doing for right here, this is not with Nice and Thick. It's just with the epoxy that I forgot to let sit. So you'll see me going back and forth, kind of adding more epoxy, working on that shape. Once I get it to where it's kind of going in a circle, I take it off and I hang it upside down and right side up, and I work with that drip to make sure that it's flowing in the direction that I want. I got the drip pretty much how I wanted, and then realized that the pink wasn't as bold as I wanted it to be, so I went ahead and dropped this, the rest of that glitter onto that wet section. There is a good bit of epoxy there, so for the most part, that stuff soaked right into the epoxy. I have this fluffy brush, and I'm going to very aggressively dust off any loose glitter. I'm going to start with that green part at the bottom and work my way right there and make sure all of that's clean. Once that's good to go, we're going to move to the top and dust that off, like I said, pretty aggressive, to make sure that all of that loose glitter is gone. Normally I like to seal my glitter with a clear spray paint, but since that alcohol ink doesn't have any epoxy on it yet, I don't want to risk ruining that. So I'm not going to seal it. We're just going to dust it off and make sure it's good to go. We're going to go ahead and get this all sealed with the Fast Cure epoxy again, starting at the bottom to make sure that I don't have any loose glitter falling anywhere. And once that's all the way done, we're going to go to the top and coat the whole pink part. Now, if I wouldn't have had to add more glitter, I would have done my seed decals before I've done this epoxy, but I don't want to put my decals over a rough surface, so that's why we're doing a layer of epoxy right here. Once your epoxy is applied, hit it with a torch to pop any bubbles. For the bottom, I do the inside part where the glitter can sit, but I don't have any epoxy that ever goes on the rim where the tumbler actually sits against the table or against the surface. So what I do for this is I hold my craft knife on an angle, and as long as you keep it the same angle all the way around, you can cut all the way around the bottom and get yourself a nice clean line. I then take a little rag with acetone and rubbing alcohol, and I clean off the bottom all the way. That top rim of the tumbler I do with a Dremel and flap wheel out in my garage, so I didn't video that. I do have a few videos that it's included in my on my channel, so you can go check those out. But get that all the way pulled back, and then I have a craft knife and I go along and really scrape at any stubborn pieces of paint that aren't wanting to come off. Once that's all gone, I wipe it again with my acetone and rubbing alcohol to get it all taken away. For the decal, I have these seeds that I cut out with some removable vinyl. I just love this black removable vinyl. It's definitely listed in the description below because it's just easy to work with. You can lift it off, remove it, actually reposition it, and even if it crinkles a little, you can't tell under epoxy, so it's super forgiving. I love doing little groups of threes where they're all facing little directions, but with this much space, you do have to kind of accommodate and place them. So I like doing one by one. Just go ahead and space them out just a little. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just also didn't want them too crowded. There was like 4 seeds that ended up in a straight line, and I didn't like the way that looked, and I saw it when I put it down, but I didn't want to mess with it yet. So you'll see me here removing one. getting rid of or adjusting the placement on the other. And I think this looks a lot better than that weird straight line. I'm going on again with Fast Cure Epoxy. This is the second to last coat of epoxy that I'll be doing on the outside of this tumbler. I always like to do 2 coats of epoxy over decals, so once this sets, I will sand it really well and then go on with another coat of epoxy. And for that last one, I'll use Artist Cure Epoxy. That one is just really good at preventing yellowing over time, and the shine is just amazing. To clean up the top and bottom, I have this baby wipe with rubbing alcohol. I'm pushing down on the rim of the tumbler so that this baby wipe somewhat wraps around the outside of the tumbler and cleans it up. We're doing the same thing on the bottom. Let it rotate and make sure that everything's cleaned up, and that way you'll have that seal being really good on the outside of the tumbler. After looking at the bottom of the tumbler, I wasn't loving the green, so I'm going to go hot pink. I have electrical tape right here. I'm taping this really close to the bottom of that tumbler, right there on that stainless, and making sure that all of my design is covered. I then take saran wrap and I wrap that around to further protect the tumbler. This is done before that last step of epoxy. We're going to spray paint the bottom with white. This did get 2 coats, and then I have pink alcohol ink that I'm putting in here, putting it around in a circle and spreading it out. We're also going to take a quick minute to remove that saran wrap and the tape, and then grab some acetone and clean up that overspray. It stayed contained to just those parts. A few spots did seep through that tape, but it was pretty easy to clean up. Fast Cure Epoxy for the bottom, we're going to go ahead and get that mixed up really well, incorporate our glitter, pour that in there, let it level out, hit it with a torch to pop any bubbles. Once that's cured, it took about 3 hours. We're going to trim off anything that might be kind of messy with a craft knife. We just had that one little spot, and then we're going to go ahead and get our decals on there. I have this 1-inch sticker from Stickermule. It does have my logo on it with the care instructions. I put 3 little seeds to play off the design a little more. Put some UV resin, spread that out, make sure it's cured with the UV light. Took about 6 minutes. And we are done. Again, I just love how easy, forgiving, and cute this design is. I hope you liked it too. Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, I'm definitely willing to help. And that's it, guys. I'll see y'all soon.